You can, Ceres said firmly. Because the stars believe you can. And because you will not walk alone. He handed her a small, shimmering stone, the astral shard. This will guide you when the path becomes unclear. Kale received a silver compass. Myra, a pouch of healing dust. The elder bowed his head. May the heavens watch over you. The fate of many worlds may rest in your hands. The next morning, the village gathered to see the three youths off. Liora felt nervous but strangely calm at the same time. The skymark pulsed faintly on her palm like a heartbeat. Kale walked beside her with steady steps, carrying 2 swords. Myra hummed cheerfully, a bundle of maps strapped to her back. As they reached the edge of Aerilon, the wind picked up, swirling around Liora. She turned for one last look at her home, the place she had grown up, laughed, and dreamed. Her mother stood among the crowd, tears in her eyes but a smile on her face. I'll be back, Liora whispered to herself. She didn't know if it was true, but saying it made her feel stronger. Kale looked at her. Ready? Liora nodded. As ready as I'll ever be. The three stepped onto the path leading into the wild northern mountains. The air shimmered with stardust. The skies above seemed brighter, as though watching their every move. Their journey toward the celestial gate had begun. And with each step, unknown powers awakened across the world, forces of light and shadow drawn to the bearer of the skymark. By the 4th day of travel, the trio entered the dense whispering forest, named for the way the leaves rustled even without wind. Sunlight barely touched the ground, and strange glowing insects drifted lazily through the air. Myra walked ahead, examining the trees. These woods are old. Some say they were planted by ancient star travelers. Kale scanned the shadows. Stay close. Forests this quiet usually mean trouble. Liora frowned. Quiet? I hear whispering. Kale froze. Whispering. Liora nodded. Like voices, faint, calling my name. Myra's cheerful expression faded. I don't hear anything. Suddenly, the forest grew darker. Cold air brushed their skin. A low voice echoed from the shadows. Skymark, bearer, chosen. Lyra's heart pounded wildly. We're not alone, she breathed. The trees around them shifted as if something moved between them. Kale drew his swords, their silver blades shimmering with faint starlight. Myra pulled Liora behind her. Dark shapes formed from the mist, creatures with hollow eyes and bodies made of smoke. The Voidborn, Myra whispered fearfully. The shadow creatures hissed, their forms trembling as if barely solid. They moved toward Liora. Kale stepped forward immediately. You'll have to get through me first. The shadows lunged. Kale struck with swift precision, slicing through the smoky tendrils. They dissolved but quickly reformed, surrounding the trio. Myra grabbed a handful of glowing dust. Liora, hold out your hand. Use the skymark. Liora raised her trembling palm. The symbol flared bright. A flash of light burst forth, sweeping through the shadows. The Voidborn shrieked and crumbled into smoke that faded into the air. Silence returned. Liora gasped. I didn't know I could do that. Kale sheathed his sword slowly. Neither did they. Myra wiped her brow. The closer we get to the gate, the more these things will appear. Liora stared at her glowing hand. Then I had to get stronger, fast. That night, the three camped near a small crystal-lit pond. The sky above shimmered beautifully, filled with soft waves of starlight that danced across the surface of the water. Liora sat alone, staring at her reflection. She looked the same as always, yet the glowing mark made her feel like someone entirely different. Kale approached quietly and sat beside her. You did well today, he said. I felt scared, Liora admitted. Really scared. Kale nodded. Courage doesn't mean you're not scared. It means doing what you must anyway. Liora sighed. I don't know why the stars picked me. Kale glanced up at the sky. Maybe they saw something in you that you haven't seen yet. She smiled a little at that. Myra suddenly appeared behind them, carrying 3 cups of warm star herb tea. Stop with the heavy talk, Myra said, handing them each a cup. We survived the first wave of shadow creatures. That's something worth celebrating. Liora laughed softly. As the three sat together under the glittering sky, Liora whispered a silent promise to herself. I will reach the celestial gate. No matter what awaits there. The stars seemed to pulse brighter in response. 3 more days passed as Liora, Kale, and Myra journeyed north. The forests thinned, giving way to steep cliffs and sharp, glittering stones. The air grew colder, and the sky began to change colors, shifting between deep indigo and soft violet. In the distance, a massive mountain rose like a silent guardian. Its peak vanished into swirling clouds that glowed faintly from within. "That's it," Myra said, pointing. "The Mountain of Echoes." Liora stared in awe. She had heard stories of this place. The mountain was said to contain the voices of ancient travelers who once used the Celestial Gate. Their whispers still lingered in the rocks. Kale examined the narrow path leading upward. "We'll have to be careful here. The cliffs are unstable." As they climbed, the wind howled around them, carrying faint murmurs. Liora shivered. "Did you hear that?" she asked. Kale frowned. "Hear what?" Liora paused. "Voices, calling from inside the mountain." Myra bit her lip. "The legends say the mountain speaks only to those connected to the stars." Liora didn't know whether to feel honored or terrified. They reached a narrow ledge where strange symbols were carved into the stone walls. The skymark on Lyora's hand glowed brighter, illuminating the carvings. "These symbols match the ones from Elder Ceri's map," Kale said. "We're on the right path." But the calm didn't last long. A deep rumble shook the ground. Chunks of stone broke loose from above. "Run!" Kale shouted. They bolted forward as massive rocks crashed down behind them. Liora stumbled, but Myra grabbed her arm and pulled her along. Dust filled the air, making it impossible to see. The trembling finally stopped, leaving the three coughing and shaken. "That wasn't natural," Kale muttered. Liora pressed her glowing palm against the rock wall. "No, something was watching us." And the mountain seemed to hum in response. As they continued higher, the path led them into a cavern entrance carved into the mountainside. The interior glowed with soft blue light, and crystals jutted from the walls like frozen stars. Myra whispered, "This place is beautiful." But Kale's expression hardened. "Stay alert." As they stepped deeper inside, the air grew warmer, and the floor vibrated faintly. Liora paused. "Do you feel that?" Myra nodded. "Something big is moving." Before Kale could respond, the cavern floor cracked. A massive creature rose from the ground, a giant made of stone and crystal, its body shaped like a humanoid statue with glowing blue veins. Its eyes, two burning orbs of white fire, stared directly at Liora. Kale immediately drew his swords. "Get behind me." The stone guardian let out a rumbling roar that echoed through the cavern. Liora felt her mark pulse painfully. "Wait. I think it can sense the sky mark." Myra pulled Liora back. "Then it's after you." The guardian lifted a massive arm and slammed it down. The shockwave threw the trio backward. Kale rolled to his feet. "Myra, keep Liora moving. I'll distract it." "No!" Liora shouted. "We fight together." She raised her glowing hand. The sky mark burst with light, sending a beam toward the guardian. The beam struck its chest, leaving a crack. The guardian roared again, this time louder. Kale dashed forward, striking the crack with both blades. Myra hurled a handful of stardust that exploded into sparks, momentarily blinding the creature. "We almost have it," Myra yelled. The guardian swung its arm, knocking Kale across the cavern and sending him crashing into the wall. "Kale!" Liora screamed. The guardian raised its arms for a final strike. Liora ran forward, placing herself between Kale and the giant. "Stop!" she shouted, holding up the sky mark. The symbol exploded with blinding brilliance. The guardian froze. Light spread across its entire body, filling every crack and crystal vein. Slowly, it knelt before Liora, lowering its head. Myra stared in astonishment. You controlled it." Liora trembled. "I didn't control it. I awakened it." The giant's chest opened, revealing a glowing crystal heart. From it rose a floating stone tablet covered in ancient writing. Kale limped forward, bruised but conscious. "What is that?" Liora reached out. The tablet swirled with light and dissolved, leaving behind a single sentence that echoed in the air. "To the bearer of the skymark, 3 trials await. Pass them, and the gate shall rise." Liora swallowed. 3 trials, and this was only the first. The stone guardian lowered its arm, revealing a hidden passage behind it. Liora felt the skymark tug her forward like a compass. The trio stepped through and found themselves in a long tunnel that gradually sloped upward. Soft whispers echoed from everywhere. Myra shivered. The mountain of echoes, we're in its heart now. The whispers grew louder, forming fragmented sentences. She is the one. The skymark returns. The gate stirs. Liora walked slowly, trying to hear clearly. Suddenly, one whisper stood out, a warm, familiar voice. Liora. She stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. That's my mother's voice. Cale shook his head. It's the mountain. It can mimic memories. No, Liora whispered. It sounded exactly like her. The voice called again, gentle and loving. Liora, come home. Liora took a step forward, but Cale grabbed her arm. Don't listen. It's trying to distract you. Liora forced herself to breathe deeply. You're right. I know. She turned away from the voice and continued walking. The whispers shifted, becoming darker, colder. She will fail. The gate will fall. The shadows are coming. Myra stepped closer to Liora. Ignore them. They feed on doubt. As they neared the tunnel's end, the voices merged into a final whisper. 3 trials, 3 truths. The sound faded as the trio stepped outside into bright sunlight. They had reached a plateau halfway up the mountain, and in the center stood a towering stone archway carved with ancient symbols. Cale exhaled. The first trial is complete. Liora stared up at the sky. The clouds glowed faintly, and far above, something stirred. Watching the plateau was quiet, almost peaceful, until the sky dimmed. A cold shadow spread across the mountain. Myra looked up. What is that? A dark figure descended from the clouds, its form shifting like smoke. 2 glowing red eyes burned through the darkness. Liora felt her entire body freeze. A voidborn? But stronger. The shadowy figure landed softly on the stone archway. Its voice was deep, echoing unnaturally. Bearer of the skymark. Cale stepped in front of Liora. Stay away from her. The figure ignored him. The gate awakens. You must not reach it. Myra pulled Liora back. Who are you? The figure's eyes narrowed. I am Varrock, harbinger of the Voidborn. And she? He pointed a clawed hand at Liora. Must be stopped. Liora backed away, heart pounding. Varrock lifted his hand. The air darkened, swirling into a blade of shadow. Your journey ends here. But before he could strike, the mountain shook violently. The stone guardian burst from the cavern behind them, roaring with fury. Varrock hissed. You dare oppose me? The guardian charged. Varrock leapt back into the sky, dissolving into a storm of black smoke. His voice echoed across the plateau. The trials will break her. And when she falls, the gate will be ours. Liora stared into the sky long after he vanished. For the first time since the journey began, she felt truly afraid. After Varrock vanished, the 3 companions rested beneath the stone archway. The air remained tense, heavy with the warning he had spoken. Cale paced back and forth, frustration in his voice. He knew your name. He knew what the trials are meant to do. That means the Voidborn are already watching every step we take. Myra hugged her knees, staring up at the sky. If they want the gate, then they must believe Liora opening it will help them. Liora remained silent. She replayed Varrock's words again and again in her mind. The trials will break her. When she falls, the gate will be ours. Her hands trembled slightly, and she pressed her fingers against the glowing skymark. I'm scared, she admitted softly. What if I really can't do this? Cale stopped pacing and knelt beside her. His voice softened. Then we fail together. But if you succeed, you won't succeed alone either. Myra added brightly. Besides, if the first trial didn't break you, I doubt the next ones will. Liora smiled weakly. She needed their strength more than she wanted to admit. As they prepared to move forward, a deep hum echoed across the plateau. The archway lit up with swirling runes. Cale drew his swords. What now? The runes formed a glowing line that extended outward across the plateau, shaping a long, shimmering path made of pure starlight. Myra took a cautious step forward and gasped. It's solid. Liora touched it. Warm energy pulsed beneath her fingers. The second trial, she whispered. The starlit path. She stepped onto it, and the world around them began to dissolve. The three found themselves walking across a long, floating trail of light that stretched endlessly through a silent void. Stars drifted around them, swirling like shining embers. "Where is this place?" Kale whispered. "A realm between worlds," Myra answered in awe. "We're walking through star memory." Liora felt the skymark burning faintly. "This trial, it feels personal." She took another step. Emma void shifted. Suddenly, she stood in her childhood home. Her mother's voice filled the space, humming the lullaby she always sang at night. Kale and Myra stood with her, confused. "Is this your house?" Kale asked gently. Liora nodded. "Yes. This is when I was 8. Her younger self darted past them, laughing. She carried a small glowing stone, one Liora remembered finding near the river. Her mother appeared, smiling warmly. The voice was so real, so comforting, that Liora felt tears sting her eyes. "It's a memory," Myra whispered. "The path is showing you moments from your past." Her mother walked toward the young Liora and knelt in front of her. "You are meant for something wonderful," she said. "Something the stars themselves will envy." Lyra's breath caught. She remembered this moment, but not the words. The present Liora reached out. "Mama?" Her hand passed through, touching only light. The memory dissolved. They were back on the glowing path. Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "You okay?" Liora wiped her eyes. It felt so real. Myra tilted her head. "Maybe the trial is more than illusions. Maybe it shows truths we didn't know." Suddenly, the path shifted again. This time, they stood inside the Hall of Echoes. Elder Ceres spoke to another elder in hushed tones. "She doesn't know what she carries," Ceres said. "If the gate opens, she may not return." Liora felt a painful tug in her chest. "I never heard this," she whispered. Kale frowned. "The trial wants to break your trust." The memory vanished. The glowing path ahead flickered, growing thinner. Liora nodded firmly. "Then I won't let it." They continued walking, the void darkened. A cold gust of wind blew past them. Dark shapes formed ahead. The same shadow creatures they had fought in the forest, but larger, fiercer. Kale stepped forward, blades raised. "We knew this was coming." But when he swung at the first creature, it split into 3. Myra threw stardust, but the dust passed right through the creatures. "They are illusions," she realized. "But they feel real." One of the shadow beings lunged toward Liora. She raised her hand to summon light. Nothing happened. The skymark flickered and dimmed. "No, not now," she cried. Kale slashed desperately at the shadows. "Liora, what's wrong?" I don't know." The path beneath them trembled. The shadows swarmed faster, surrounding them. Myra grabbed Lyora's arms. "This isn't a real attack. It's showing you your fear." "My fear?" Liora gasped. Myra nodded. "Your fear of failing." Liora closed her eyes tightly. She heard Varric's voice echo. "She will fall." "No." She clenched her fist. "No." The skymark flared like the heart of a star. A wave of light burst outward, shattering every shadow until the void was clear again. Liora collapsed to her knees, exhausted. Kale knelt beside her. "You did it." Myra handed her water. Second trial, passed. Liora breathed heavily. "I thought I'd lost the light." "You didn't," Kale said softly. "You just doubted it." Liora nodded slowly. And then, the void shifted again. A tall figure formed in front of them, cloaked in silver, with swirling galaxies in place of eyes. Liora froze. An astral keeper." The figure bowed gracefully. "Bearer of the skymark," it said in a voice like distant thunder, "you have crossed the starlit path and faced truths within your heart." Liora stood shakily. "Are the trials nearly done?" "There is one more," the keeper answered. "The final trial awaits at Starfall Peak." Kale stepped forward cautiously. "What is the last trial?" The keeper's expression darkened. "A choice. One that shaped the universe once before. One that only you can make." Lyra's heartbeat quickened. "A choice? Between what?" The keeper looked at her gently. "Between what you desire and what the worlds require." Myra whispered, "That doesn't sound good." The keeper raised its hand. A glowing star orb formed and floated before Liora. "This will strengthen your light." But remember, power alone cannot pass the final trial. Liora reached out as the orb dissolved into her chest, flooding her with warm energy. The keeper stepped back. Walk forward. The path will deliver you to the base of Starfall Peak. From there, your fate unfolds. The void brightened. The path under their feet transformed into a bridge of glowing stardust. Liora looked ahead. I'm ready. 15. Return to the mountains. Light swallowed them. They reappeared on solid ground, standing at the base of the tallest mountain they had ever seen. Starfall Peak. The summit pierced through swirling cosmic clouds, glowing faintly with pale blue fire. A narrow trail wound upward, shimmering like the edges of a dream. Kale exhaled. We're here. Myra's eyes sparkled. The final trial waits up there. Lyra's hand pulsed with skymark light. She looked up at the glowing peak. Then let's climb. The last part of their destiny awaited. Starfall Peak towered above them like a pillar piercing the heavens. The air shimmered with faint traces of stardust, and every step felt lighter, as if gravity weakened near the mountain. Liora tightened her cloak and began the climb. Kale followed, his blades strapped securely, while Myra hovered behind with silent awe in her eyes. This place doesn't feel like part of our world, Myra whispered. It isn't, Liora replied. The keeper said the final trial is tied to something ancient, something beyond our realm. Kale scanned the cliffs. All the more reason to stay alert. They ascended a narrow ridge where the stones glowed faintly beneath their feet. The sky above shifted in swirling patterns, deep blue, bright gold, then violet streaked with silver. Myra reached out a hand. It's as if the sky is alive. Liora felt the same. The skymark thrummed like a heartbeat in her palm, reacting to the energy around them. Painfully beautiful. Strangely ominous. They continued upward until the air grew crisp and thin, and the sounds of the world faded entirely. That's when the first voice came. Liora. She paused. The voice was soft, familiar. Her mother's voice again. But now, distant. Weak. Kale touched her arm. Ignore it. The mountain is trying to sway you again. Liora nodded, forcing herself to keep walking. But the voice returned, louder. Liora, please, come back. Myra looked worried. It's persistent. This is different from the mountain of echoes. Liora pressed her hand against her heart. It feels real. The path narrowed until they had to move single file. The wind howled, carrying strange whispers that rose and fell like broken songs. Kale muttered, this place is unsettling. Liora whispered back, it's preparing us for what's ahead. And then, the sky flashed white, the light faded, revealing swirling storm clouds directly above the peak. Bolts of blue fire crackled across the sky, striking the mountainside like falling stars. Myra gasped. Starfire. Legends say it's born from collisions of worlds. Kale shielded Liora. We need cover, now. But the storm gave them no time. A bolt struck the ground behind them, shattering the stone path. Liora stumbled forward as Myra pulled her away from the collapsing edge. Go! Move! Kale shouted. They sprinted along the ridge as bolts of starfire rained down, lighting the sky in blinding flashes. Liora felt a sudden warmth in her hand. The skymark glowed fiercely, forming a shimmering barrier around them. Kale noticed. You're shielding us. I don't know how long I can. Liora cried. The storm intensified. Bolts struck the barrier, shaking it violently. Myra tossed stardust into the air. The dust expanded, forming a thin reflective layer that deflected some of the falling energy. The combination held, barely. The group reached a shallow cave formed by an overhang of crystal rock. They threw themselves inside as the barrier cracked and vanished. Kale breathed heavily. We almost died. Myra wiped sweat from her forehead. Starfire storms are rare. Why would one appear now? Liora swallowed. Because we're close. The mountain is testing us. They rested while the storm raged outside, beautiful and deadly. At last, after many minutes, the glow of falling fire faded. Kale peeked out. It's over. Let's keep moving before another storm hits. Liora nodded, feeling the weight of the trials pressing on her. Something on this mountain wanted to break her. Something else wanted her to succeed. And neither would wait long. The path wound upward toward a plateau where the climate shifted suddenly. Frost coated the stones. The air sparkled with tiny flakes that never touched the ground. At the center of the plateau lay a perfectly still lake that reflected the sky like a flawless mirror. Myra knelt and touched the surface. It's warm. Why isn't it frozen? Kale frowned. Because it's not water. Lyra stepped closer. The lake's surface rippled, revealing their reflections, but wrong. Myra's reflection had no eyes. Kale's reflected form was cracked like broken stone. Lyra's reflection glowed with blinding light, and a shadow stood behind her. She stepped back quickly. This is part of the trial. The shadows around the lake shifted. A figure rose from the surface, another reflection, but clearer than the lake's illusion. It solidified into a woman with silver hair and starlit eyes. Lyra whispered, "An astral guide." The figure spoke, her voice melodic but grave. "You face yourself now, bearer of the skymark. The greatest trials are not of strength or skill, but of truth." The lake rippled again, forming images on its surface. Lyra leaned in. She saw herself younger, lonely, afraid, grieving her mother. Then she saw herself now, determined but uncertain, weighed by destiny. The guide looked at her calmly. "What are you afraid to admit?" Lyra's throat tightened. Myra placed a gentle hand on her back. "You can say it. We're here." Lyra stared into the lake, watching her reflection tremble. "I'm afraid that I wasn't chosen for greatness." She swallowed. "I'm afraid I was chosen because no one else was left." The reflection flickered. The lake glowed. The guide nodded. "Truth spoken." She turned to Kale. "And you?" Kale stiffened. "Me? This trial isn't mine." "Yet you climb with her." "You carry a fear too." Kale said nothing. The lake revealed his memory. Flames consuming a village, a child crying, Kale unable to reach them. Lyra whispered, "Kale, that was you?" He lowered his gaze. "I couldn't save them. I fear failing again." The guide nodded. Then she faced Myra. Myra smiled weakly. "Do I have to?" "Yes." The lake revealed Myra alone in darkness, her stardust fading, shadows closing in. Myra trembled. "I fear losing my light." The reflection faded. The guide stepped back. "You have each faced your truths. Now, the path will open." The lake split down the center, revealing a glowing staircase descending into the mountain. Lyra exhaled shakily. "That was more painful than any battle." Kale nodded. "But necessary." Myra squeezed her hand. "You weren't chosen because no one was left. You were chosen because the light saw something in you." Together, they stepped onto the glowing stairs. The staircase led to a massive cavern filled with golden light. Floating above a circular platform was a crystalline shard, pulsing with immense energy. Lyra stared. "A fallen star." Kale whispered, "If legends are true, they contain immense power." Myra's voice wavered. "They also contain immense danger." As they approached, the star shard resonated with Lyra's skymark. A deep, rumbling voice filled the chamber. "Bearer, the final trial begins." The ground shook. The star expanded, forming into a massive figure of pure light, humanoid but indistinct, as if sculpted from the heart of a sun. Myra's eyes widened. A starbound guardian. Kale drew his blades. The guardian's voice thundered. "To open the celestial gate, you must choose." The cavern dimmed. Two portals appeared beside the guardian, one of radiant gold, the other of swirling shadow. Lyra's heartbeat raced. What kind of choice? The guardian pointed to the golden portal. "Step through, and the celestial gate opens. But a sacrifice must be made." Lyra trembled. "What sacrifice?" The guardian's voice softened. "Your life will fuel the gate." Kale shouted, "No." Myra grabbed Lyra. "There has to be another way." The guardian gestured to the second portal, the swirling shadow. "Step through, and the gate remains sealed. The worlds will stay safe. But the Voidborn will continue their relentless search. And you will lose the skymark forever." Lyra's breath shook. Open the gate, and she would die. Seal the gate, and she would abandon the destiny given to her, and leave the worlds vulnerable. Her choice. Her burden. Kale stepped in front of her. "You can't choose the first. I won't let you." Myra cried. "Lyra, Please, your life matters more than any prophecy. The guardian raised its hand. The choice must be the bearer's alone.
Liora stared at both portals. Her hands shook. Her heart pounded.
Her destiny waited. And she whispered, I choose. The celestial gate opened with a deep, echoing hum. A soft radiance poured out, brighter and purer than any light Orin had ever seen.
It did not burn.
It felt warm, like a hand on his shoulder, welcoming him inside. The group stepped carefully into the gate's inner chamber, unsure what dangers or wonders waited for them. As soon as their feet touched the shining floor, the walls around them shifted like living glass. Streams of glowing threads flowed in the air, forming long corridors stretching endlessly. Lyra's eyes widened. It's like the gate is alive, she whispered.
Orin nodded slowly.
And it's showing us something. Ahead of them, symbols appeared on the walls, celestial symbols, swirling gently like star dust. The symbols rearranged themselves, forming what looked like a doorway.
Orin took the lead and stepped through it.
Inside, the light dimmed into a soft blue glow. The space around them expanded into a huge circular hall filled with floating images. They weren't random, they were memories. Memories of worlds being born. Memories of stars exploding. Memories of travelers walking through ancient realms. Lyra gasped softly. This is a memory corridor. Kale stepped forward, mesmerized. It's as if the Celestials stored the history of the universe here. As the images moved around them, one scene grew brighter than the others. It showed a young child standing at the edge of a massive, glowing doorway.
The child held a staff of pure light.
The celestial gate was behind him, and around him stood thousands of shimmering beings, Celestials.
Orin frowned. Who is that?
The orb suddenly floated forward, glowing stronger than ever.
A voice echoed.
The chosen bearer. Orin felt the words inside his mind, not through his ears. The group watched the memory continue. The child lifted the staff, and the gate opened wider. A rush of power traveled across the universe.
Worlds lit up. Darkness retreated.
The Celestials bowed to the child, to their guide. Kale whispered, Is he the one who built the gate?
Lyra shook her head.
No, he used it.
But he didn't build it.
The gate was older than them all.
The first warning. The scene suddenly shifted.
The child was older now, standing before a council of Celestials. Their forms were flickering, weakening. A deep rumble filled the hall.
A giant shadow spread across the memory.
The Celestials raised their arms, defending themselves against something unseen. The orb gave off a trembling pulse. Something attacked them, Orin murmured.
Lyra swallowed hard.
A force strong enough to fight beings who shaped the stars.
The memory darkened.
The child disappeared in the chaos. Then the vision shattered like broken glass. The hall began to vibrate. The glowing threads around them tightened, like veins pulsing with energy.
The ground trembled beneath their feet. Kale stepped back.
What did we trigger?
The orb glowed red, warning.
The walls suddenly changed from showing memories to showing something else.
A giant eye. Watching them. Not friendly. Not celestial.
Orin felt a cold chill rush up his spine. There's something inside the gate, and it's awake. The threads of light shot toward them, wrapping around their wrists and ankles. Lyra tried to break free, but the glowing strands pulled tighter. The gate was trying to restrain them, not to harm them, but to stop them. It thinks we're intruders.
Lyra shouted. Orin clutched the orb tightly. Orb. Tell it we are allowed here.
The orb pulsed 3 times. The strands paused, then released them.
Kale exhaled.
That was close. As the hall calmed again, a new doorway appeared at the far end, glowing softly.
It wasn't like the others.
This one pulsed in rhythm with the orb, as if connected to it. Orin stepped closer. This is meant for us.
Lyra placed her hand on the frame.
This door, it feels different. Like it's hiding something important. Kale tightened his grip on his blade. Then we proceed carefully.
They stepped through the doorway.
Inside was a narrow corridor covered in symbols that rearranged themselves as they walked.
The deeper they went, the more the air changed.
It felt heavier, ancient, and filled with a deep sense of power. Finally, the corridor opened into a small chamber with a pedestal in the center. On it rested a glowing shard, pure white, shaped like a piece of crystal. Orin felt his heart tighten. That looks like the orb.
Lyra nodded slowly. It's a piece of it. Kale frowned. But the orb is whole. Orin held the orb next to the shard. The orb trembled. The shard rose into the air. And then, slowly, merged into the orb like a drop of water falling into a lake. The orb shifted colors, white, blue, gold, before settling into a brighter, sharper glow. What just happened? Liora asked. The orb's voice whispered inside their minds.
You restored a fragment of me. Orin stepped back, stunned. There are more fragments. Suddenly, images formed around them again, clearer than before. A celestial figure appeared, tall, glowing, with wings made of light. Its voice echoed through the chamber. Traveler, if you hold the orb, you hold our last hope.
Orin felt his breath catch. The gate was never just a doorway. It is a seal.
A prison.
Lyra's eyes widened.
A prison for what?
The celestial answered.
For the devouring void. A dark shape appeared behind the celestial, an endless shadow with no face, swallowing stars as it moved. Kale stepped back. That's what destroyed their realm. The celestial continued. The void seeks the gate. If the seal breaks, every world will fall.
Orin's hands trembled.
Why us? Why me?
The celestial turned directly to him.
Because the orb chose you. And only the chosen bearer can restore the gate before the void arrives.
The celestial began to fade. The chamber darkened. The memory ended. Silence filled the hall. Liora turned to Orin slowly. So, the celestial gate isn't just a mystery.
It's the last defense of the universe.
Kale exhaled heavily. And we are now part of that defense. Orin closed his eyes for a moment. He no longer felt small. He no longer felt unsure. He felt chosen. The corridor behind them closed. A new path opened ahead, darker, deeper, and pulsing with danger. Orin looked at his friends.
Whatever comes next, we face it together.
Liora smiled softly. Till the last star. Kale rested his hand on his sword. Let's see what the gate hides next. They stepped into the darkness, guided only by the glowing orb.
The next chapter of their destiny was waiting. The corridor they entered was different from the others, narrow, silent, and wrapped in a cold wind that did not belong inside a structure of light. The walls, once glowing, now dimmed to a dull silver. The orb flickered faintly, almost as if the darkness here weakened it. Orin held the orb tightly.
Stay close.
This place feels wrong.
Liora nodded, rubbing her arms as a shiver passed through her.
It feels like the gate doesn't want us here.
Kale scanned the shadows. No.
Something else doesn't want us here. The corridor twisted like a living maze. Shadows clung to the walls as if watching them. Their footsteps echoed unnaturally, almost louder than they should have. Finally, the passage opened into a vast circular hall. Unlike the earlier rooms of light, this hall was filled with floating shards of darkness, like broken pieces of a shattered night sky. They drifted slowly, forming patterns that changed every few seconds. Liora whispered, "What is this place?"
Orin exhaled.
"I think this is where the Celestials stored memories of the void." As they stepped forward, the floating dark shards aligned themselves, forming a single large shape, a silhouette made of pure shadow.
A figure. Tall. Faceless. Vast.
The chamber trembled.
Kale raised his weapon instantly.
"We're not alone." The shadow figure spoke, not with words, but with vibrations that shook the air. "Bearer."
Orin's breath caught. It was addressing him.
"You walk into realms you cannot understand." The voice felt like cold wind slicing through their bones. Liora stumbled back, covering her ears.
Orin stood firm.
"What are you?"
The shadow expanded, covering half the hall.
"I am the hunger between stars."
Kale growled under his breath.
"The void."
The voice shook again.
"The Celestials failed to destroy me. They hid behind their gate and their orb. But their light fades.
And you are no Celestial." The shadow moved closer.
Orin felt as if gravity itself was pulling him in.
But the orb suddenly lit up, glowing fiercely. A wave of light pushed the shadow figure back. The hall brightened momentarily. Kale smirked.
"Looks like you underestimated us." The void's voice echoed one last time before fading. "The bearer will fall. And the seal will break." When the shadow vanished, the hall became silent again, too silent.
Liora exhaled shakily. That was just an echo.
A projection.
Orin nodded.
But it means the void knows we're here. As the shadows drifted away, the floating dark shards reformed into a narrow path leading deeper into the hall. At the center stood a small altar with a glowing blue crystal resting on it.
Kale raised an eyebrow.
Another fragment of the orb.
Orin approached carefully. No.
It feels different. Lyra stepped closer, eyes focused. It's a memory crystal.
Orin frowned.
What does it hold?
Lyra placed her hand on it.
Light burst outward, forming a holographic projection of a celestial. Unlike the others, this one looked weak, almost fading. The celestial spoke softly. If you have reached this chamber, the void has already awakened. This is the realm of echoing shadows, created to hold our knowledge of the enemy.
Orin listened closely.
To restore the gate, the bearer must gather all fragments of the orb and awaken the core star.
Kale crossed his arms. Core star?
That sounds dangerous. The celestial continued.
But beware. The void can corrupt the unprepared mind.
You must find the heart of balance before seeking the core.
Lyra's eyes widened.
The heart of balance, a mythical relic.
The celestial faded. The crystal dimmed. Orin looked at his friends.
So the next fragment won't be enough. We need two things now.
Kale nodded.
Then we go after both. A door of dark glass opened at the far end of the hall. Kale stepped through first, scouting ahead. The group entered a long labyrinth filled with tall spires of polished stone. Every sound they made echoed, bouncing strangely through the halls.
Orin whispered.
Don't get separated. But the labyrinth seemed to shift as they moved. Walls changed positions.
Paths curved.
Shadows moved with purpose, not chance.
Lyra pointed at the floor.
There are symbols here.
Orin knelt to inspect them.
They are celestial markers. Directions.
Kale grinned.
Well, at least someone left us a map. They followed the symbols, choosing only paths marked with the same glowing sign, 3 circles connected by a line. After what felt like an hour, they entered a final chamber.
Inside it stood another pedestal.
This one held a tiny golden shard glowing softly.
Lyra whispered. A fragment. Orin held the orb near it.
The shard rose, merged, and the orb brightened again, more powerful than before.
Kale nodded. 2 fragments restored.
The orb is waking up.
But then, a thunderous crack echoed behind them.
The labyrinth walls twisted violently.
Shadows stretched toward them. The floor shook. Lyra shouted.
It's collapsing.
Orin held up the orb.
Orb, protect us.
The orb pulsed once. A bubble of light surrounded them.
The labyrinth shattered around them like breaking mirrors. When the light faded, they found themselves in a quiet circular room lit by soft golden lamps.
Kale blinked.
Where are we? Orin looked at the walls. They are not part of the labyrinth.
Lyra stepped forward.
They are part of a sanctuary.
The room was warm and filled with calm energy.
Soft light flowed from floating lanterns. In the center stood a single pillar with an inscription. For the bearer who seeks truth, rest here.
Orin placed a hand on the pillar. A gentle warmth spread through him. His fears quieted. His thoughts cleared.
The weight he carried felt lighter.
Lyra sat down beside him.
The Celestials must have built this place for moments like this, when the bearer needed to recover. Kale leaned against a wall, sighing with relief.
Good.
Because this journey is heavy.
Orin held the orb in his lap.
It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. The path behind them had collapsed completely.
The path ahead remained unknown. But something inside Orin changed in that moment. He no longer felt like someone chosen by chance. He felt like someone chosen with purpose. The call forward.
As they rested, the orb suddenly rose from Orin's hands. It glowed brightly, projecting a single symbol on the wall, a swirling spiral surrounding a bright star.
Lyra stood quickly.
That's the mark of the heart of balance.
Kale smirked.
So it's calling us.
Orin rose to his feet.
Then we follow it. The sanctuary doors opened on their own, revealing a new path bathed in golden light.
Orin took a deep breath.
The next part of our journey begins now. And together, they stepped through the doors. The golden path that opened before them felt warm, almost alive. It lit the stone beneath their feet and cast a soft glow on the walls. Unlike the cold halls they had walked through earlier, This passage felt peaceful, as though it had been waiting for them. Orin walked in front, holding the orb close. Its glow was steady now, not flickering, not trembling, but strong and calm. Liora walked beside him, quietly studying the patterns along the walls. Kale stayed behind them, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon, alert and ready. Liora finally spoke. These patterns, they are guiding symbols. They are showing us how to keep our minds balanced. Kale shrugged. Mine is perfectly balanced. I just hit things. Liora rolled her eyes. Balance doesn't mean hitting everything you see. Kale grinned. Works for me. Orin laughed softly, but then turned serious again. If the heart of balance is real, what does it actually do? Liora answered quietly. Legends say it keeps the universe aligned. It prevents chaos from swallowing systems. Maybe that's why the void fears it. Orin nodded slowly. Then we can't fail. At the end of the passage, a magnificent sight awaited them. A massive bridge hanging in midair with no supports, stretching across a vast chamber that looked like a sky full of floating stars. The stars were glowing orbs drifting gently, like lanterns on a calm river. Below the bridge was nothing. A bottomless abyss filled with swirling light. Kale whistled. Impressive. And also very dangerous. Orin stepped onto the bridge. It felt solid, surprisingly. The stars around them brightened with each step, almost welcoming their presence. Liora looked up. This place, it's beautiful. But her smile faded when some of the glowing orbs suddenly dimmed and turned dark. Kale pulled out his blade. That's never a good sign. Shadows began forming at the edge of the bridge. Small, crawling shapes made of smoke and darkness. Liora gasped. Void echoes. The creatures hissed, their forms flickering as if they were struggling to stay solid. They crawled across the bridge toward them. Orin lifted the orb. A wave of light burst out, pushing the shadow creatures backward. Some dissolved into thin air, others shrank away hissing. But more kept forming. Kale charged forward, slashing through the ones that got too close. Liora stood behind Orin, pointing out movements and helping him direct the orb's light. Orin focused hard. Orb, repel them. The orb responded. A stronger burst of radiance exploded outward, washing over the bridge. Every shadow creature faded instantly. Kale lowered his weapon. Next time, let's walk faster. Liora gave him a glare. Or maybe you could help earlier. Kale shrugged. I was admiring the view. Orin smiled weakly. But inside, he felt uneasy. The void was growing stronger. After crossing the bridge, they entered a serene chamber filled with floating stones arranged in spirals. Water flowed upward like fountains reversed, moving silently into glowing pools on the ceiling. Orin stepped forward. What is this place? Liora closed her eyes. It's a sanctum, designed to protect something important. Kale raised an eyebrow. And what are we protecting? Before anyone could answer, the floor beneath them shifted slightly. A circular platform rose from the ground. At the center floated a golden sphere, smooth, glowing, calm. Orin felt a warmth in his chest. That must be the heart of balance. The orb in his hand vibrated, glowing brighter. It floated out of his grip and rose toward the golden sphere. Liora watched carefully. It's trying to connect with it. But as the orb approached, the chamber trembled. A wave of dark mist poured in from the walls. Kale tensed. Not again. The mist spiraled upward, shaping itself into a tall, shadowy figure. Its form was unstable, like smoke trying to imitate a body. The figure's voice echoed deeply. You cannot take the heart. Balance belongs only to the void. Orin stepped forward. We're not letting you destroy the gate. The figure turned its empty face toward him. The gate is not your concern. You cannot even hold your own mind together. Orin felt a wave of cold fear wash over him. His legs shook. His vision blurred. Liora grabbed his arm. Orin, stay with us. Kale stepped between Orin and the shadow. Try him again, and you deal with me. The shadow lifted its hand. Kale was thrown backward by an invisible force. Liora shouted, Kale. The heart of balance pulsed once, softly, like a heartbeat. The orb responded, glowing fiercely. A wave of pure light burst from it, pushing the dark figure back. The shadow hissed, its form flickering. You cannot fight forever, bearer. You will break. And it vanished, the chamber grew still again. The golden sphere lowered itself gently toward Orin, stopping just above his hands. Lyra whispered, "It's choosing you." Orin reached out slowly. When his fingers touched the heart, warmth spread through him, soothing, steady, calming his fear and strengthening his spirit. The sphere dissolved into pure light. The light entered the orb. The orb glowed brighter than ever, white, gold, blue, shining so intensely that the whole chamber lit up like a sun. Kale shielded his eyes. "What's happening now?" Lyra watched with awe. "The orb has achieved balance." The orb floated back into Orin's hands, humming with new power. Orin felt stronger, clearer, no longer shaken by fear. He whispered, "I can feel it, the gate's power. The celestial strength." Lyra smiled softly. "You needed balance. Now you have it." Kale stood up, dusting off his clothes. "So the void is scared now, right?" Lyra sighed. "Kale, the void doesn't get scared." Orin nodded. "But it should." The floor rumbled suddenly. A new doorway of glowing blue light appeared at the far end of the chamber. Lyra's eyes widened. "That symbol, it's the sign of the core star." Kale smirked. "Good. We're getting close." Orin held the orb firmly. Its glow now felt like a part of him, steady, powerful, alive. He stepped toward the doorway. "This is the next step. And this time, we won't run." Lyra and Kale joined him on either side. Together, they walked through the light. The passage that opened before them glowed with a deep blue light. The walls shimmered as if made of vibrating starlight. With each step the group took, the light grew brighter, stronger, almost pulsing like a heartbeat. Orin walked at the front. The orb in his hand hummed with steady power, balanced, awakened, and guiding him. Lyra looked around with wide eyes. "These walls, they are made of pure star energy. We're inside the heart of the gate." Kale grinned. "That means this is the last bit, right? The part where we save everything." Orin smiled softly. "Yes. Or the part where everything ends." The corridor opened suddenly into a massive chamber so large it felt endless. Floating above the center was a giant sphere of swirling blue and white flames, the core star, glowing like a young sun. The air vibrated with power. Even Kale took a quiet step back. Lyra whispered, This is the power source of the celestial gate." The core star pulsed once, and waves of energy rippled outward. Orin felt the orb lift from his hand. It floated toward the core star slowly, as if pulled by an invisible force. Lyra held her breath. "Orin, this is what the Celestials wanted. The orb must merge with the core to restore the gate." But before the orb reached the core star, the chamber darkened. A freezing wind swept through. Kale cursed under his breath. "Not again." The shadows twisted, forming a tall figure at the edge of the chamber, the same void-shaped form they had seen before, but larger now, more solid, its darkness thicker and heavier. It spoke with a hollow, shaking voice. "Bearer, you have come far. But the seal will not be renewed." The darkness around it spread, swallowing the edges of the chamber. Orin stepped forward, fists clenched. "We're not letting you destroy the gate." The void tilted its head. "You think you have strength? You think one orb and 2 children can stop the end?" Kale stepped beside Orin. "We're 3 children. Get it right." Lyra smacked Kale lightly on the arm. "Not the time." The void raised a massive arm made of shadow. Dark lightning crackled across the chamber. Orin lifted the orb. Its glow flared, creating a shield around the 3 of them. The bolt struck the shield. Orin staggered backward but didn't fall. Kale tightened his grip on his blade. "I'll handle anything that gets close." Lyra whispered a focus spell, strengthening the shield. The void's voice echoed again. "Your minds will break. Your balance will fail." Orin stepped forward, holding the orb high. "No. I've found balance. I found strength. And I'm not alone." The chamber erupted into chaos. The void sent waves of shadow across the floor, twisting into sharp tendrils that lashed at the group. Kale leaped into action, slicing through the dark shapes, keeping them away from Lyra and Orin. Lyra chanted rapidly, sending bursts of golden sparks to weaken the shadow tendrils. The void advanced, its form towering above them. Orin aimed the orb at the creature. A beam of pure white light shot out. The void roared, staggering backward. Lyra gasped. "It's working."
Aerilon, keep pushing. Aerilon poured all his focus into the orb. Light surged brighter and brighter. But then, a massive shadow whip struck Aerilon across the chest. He flew backward, crashing onto the stone floor. Liora screamed, running to him. Aerilon. Kale swung wildly at the void, trying to distract it. Aerilon coughed weakly. His vision blurred. The orb rolled away from his hand. The void moved toward the core star, spreading darkness around it like a poison. The gate dies now. Liora knelt beside Aerilon, tears in her eyes. You have to get up. You have to. Aerilon tried to sit up, but pain shot through him. Kale was thrown against the wall by a wave of dark force. Everything felt hopeless. Then, the orb pulsed. A soft glow flowed from it, straight into Aerilon's chest. He gasped, feeling warmth spread through him. His pain faded. His strength returned. Liora stared in awe. It's healing you. Aerilon stood slowly, breathing deeply. He heard a whisper, not spoken, but felt inside his mind. You are the bearer. Rise. Aerilon picked up the orb. It glowed brighter than ever before. Kale staggered to his feet, ready again. Liora stood behind Aerilon, hands glowing with magic. Aerilon spoke softly but firmly. This ends now. The void turned toward him, roaring in anger. You cannot defeat me, child. Aerilon lifted the orb with both hands. I don't have to defeat you. He looked at the core star. I just have to restore the gate. The orb pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Aerilon ran toward the core star. Shadows reached out to stop him. Kale swung through them, blocking every strike. Lyra's magic bursts cleared the path ahead. Aerilon leaped forward. He pressed the orb against the core star. A deafening explosion of light filled the chamber. The void screamed as its form disintegrated into fragments. Shadow after shadow burned away in the blinding radiance. The core star absorbed the orb. Its glow intensified. It shone like a sun being reborn. The celestial gate awakened. The light faded slowly. Aerilon floated gently back to the floor, landing beside Liora and Kale. His hands were empty. The orb was gone. Liora looked worried. Aerilon, the orb. But Aerilon shook his head softly. No. It didn't disappear. He placed a hand on his chest. It became part of me. Kale raised an eyebrow. So does that make you a celestial now? Aerilon laughed lightly. No. Just a bearer. The chamber around them shifted. The core star shrank, turning into a stable crystal sphere resting above a pedestal. The darkness was gone. The void was sealed again. Liora let out a relieved breath. We did it. Kale smirked. Told you we would. Aerilon smiled warmly. No. We did it together. A doorway of bright white light appeared at the far wall, signaling their exit. The celestial gate was at peace again. As they walked toward the light, Aerilon felt calm for the first time. Liora nudged him playfully. So, what now, bearer? Aerilon shrugged with a grin. Well, someone has to watch over the gate. Kale stretched his arms. And someone has to protect the bearer. Liora smiled. And someone has to keep you both from breaking the universe again. They walked through the light together. The celestial gate hummed softly behind them, restored, balanced, alive. A new journey waited beyond its doors. But for now, they had saved the universe. And their story, the story of Aerilon, Liora, and Kale, would be remembered as the Chronicles of the Celestial Gate.